So I just want to say the members of the group were, this is really down and dirty now, I know, they'll probably kill me. Thanks, Janine, and that's Janine Fagan, who represents Annapolis Junior Rowing Club, who's here tonight too. The members of the group were the Dragon Boat Club, who operates in the county, the Irish Rowing Club, the Annapolis Junior Rowing Club, and the Annapolis Masters Rowing Club. And then, as I said, we've been talking to Paul Bollinger from CRAB as well. Also, my husband volunteers for Paul Bollinger, so I'm part of CRAB too. So just to give you a background of the clubs, the Irish Rowing Club was founded in 1982, excuse me. They're members of the North American Curragh Association. They have 30 active members, but their total membership has been over 350 over the years. They host an annual regatta in the county, which draws in 7 clubs from around. They stay at the hotels in Annapolis. They eat out. They bring a lot of funding into the county. Then we have the Dragon Boat Club. They are founded in 2010, and if you don't know about the Dragon Boat Club in the county, they're actually for breast cancer survivors. So they currently get referrals from both hospitals in the county, Arundel Medical Center in Baltimore, Washington. They have 92 active members in the county, and their total membership is over 700 members who participated in this. Then we have the Annapolis Junior Rowing Club. And to give you some background on them, they recruit from 12 to 14 public, private, high schools, even homeschooled students. They attract challenge students every year to the program, and they help the students acquire college scholarships so they can go on to very good colleges. And they basically take in 40 to 70 students a year. They're limited on participation basically because of the space that they have. And I think it's interesting that in this county, we are the only county in the surrounding counties that does not have a rowing program for public high schools. We have 12 public high schools in this county. There is no rowing program for any student to participate in other than the Annapolis Junior Rowing. And if you take that there are about 20,000 high school students in public high schools, the junior program can only take 40 to 70 students. We also have 152 colleges in this country that give out scholarships for rowing to go to college. Our kids can't access them because we do not have a big enough program for them. So we are, Prince George's County has a program, Baltimore City has a program, Baltimore County has a program, Washington, D.C. has a program, and Virginia has a program. Anne Arundel County does not have a program, and we have more shoreline than any other county in the state. So I think it is really unbelievable that we don't, and I was even surprised when I went in and got all the facts on this, that we don't. So then we have the Annapolis Masters Rowing Program too. We were founded in 1984. We have 90 active members. The full membership generally is over 1,000 people. We offer Learn to Row programs, but also Strokes for Survivors, which is also for cancer survivors or to participate in. And we host an annual regatta, but we have to do it at Y Island because we have no place in Anne Arundel County to host an annual regatta. And we have boats that come up from all up and down the East Coast to participate in this regatta, and they stay over at Queen Anne's County because we don't have the facilities here. So if we look at this, we look at a community boathouse and we look at other places that do have it. It's often in Bladensburg Water Park, which is in Prince George's County, which incidentally I was just at today and just walked through with them. They have 8 schools and colleges that participate, along with 1 business enterprise that participates with them. And it's offered not only just to rowers, but to kayakers, to paddleboarders, to canoers, to any kind of water activity. We have Baltimore Boathouse, which serves Baltimore City and Baltimore County. It's been operational since 1979. They have rowing teams from 10 high schools and colleges. They're part of what they call Patapsco Navy, which includes that whole area, which is business and private enterprise. And they also host corporate events for team building and skills. And I think it's interesting, if you look at Baltimore City, that I don't know if you know this, but before World War II, Baltimore City was the hub for rowing in the country, and they had regattas that attracted more than 10,000 people into the Baltimore area. And then when World War II came and industrialization came, rowing went away in Baltimore City. But it's an area where we do attract rowers, we do have rowers. So it's something that I think we should consider. If you look at Anacostia Boathouse in Washington, D.C., they have 10 different groups who participate in their program. And it's a joint city-county operation, as all these community boathouses that I've mentioned are. It's not just private, it's all county and private. And also in Anacostia, when they put this boathouse in, which had some flack, which we know when anytime we put a public project in, we have a little bit of flack from neighbors, but it improved the whole area in terms of residential and in business enterprises. So it's important that, that we consider that. So I just want to say, we also have Williamsburg Boathouse in Virginia, which is open to all public high schools and homes. It's been operational since 2003. So Bladensburg is the most recent, and that's 2001. And where are we in Anne Arundel County? I mean, we are way behind in terms of a community boathouse. But Chris, I know you were involved in Williamsburg.
I worked with the William and Mary team. I think what would be helpful for the group is, could you maybe describe kind of the vision of what a boathouse looks like? In Baltimore City, they have very high-end wedding rentals up top that the city is getting the revenue stream from that. Northern Virginia Parks Authority has one on their site, which is a combination of James Madison University, several local high schools, pardon me, and then there are canoe and kayak clubs that, while they don't necessarily always paddle out of there, do their training seminars. So maybe kind of that visual, since we don't have the visual of what a boathouse looks like.
Well, but you do have a couple of examples really close by. You have the Naval Academy boathouse, which is, you can just
That's a premier, yes.
Right, you can just pass by, I can remember the road. And then right next to it, you have St. John's has a boathouse.
Right.
I have a question about, because of my ignorance about, are we talking the similar type of sculling boats, or we're talking different kinds of boats, or, like rowing shells? Not so much rowing shells. I see them more in the magazine, more like heavier boats that people are using.
Well, rowing can be, it can be an 8-person boat, which could be 69 or 70 feet.
Right.
It can be a 4-person boat.
Well,
which
but
is
you're
singles.
talking, in that case, you're talking like a rowing shell. I'm talking about, I see more often than the shells, I see people buying a small Cape Dory rowboat and actually using them. So the question I have is, what kind of rowing are we talking about? Are we talking about something like at the Naval Academy where you have these 8s or 4s or 2s? Or are we talking about smaller, a service for somebody that happens to have like a 10-foot rowing boat that they use to go rowing? And so if that were the case, then, for instance, in Beechwood Park, and it would be it would not be a car-top boat for some of the ones that I've seen. They would have to have some hard ground for them to put down, a little more intense than a kayak launch.
Exactly.
That's where, so I'm trying to get the two things separated, so in my back of my mind, when you just talk about rowing, you're talking about shells, but there's also another thing, like you mentioned dragon boats, which I happen to know was like a Polynesian kind of thing. And so they're bigger, but they're also something that if you were going to have you would have to have the trail of them to go anywhere from different things. Or some of them that I've seen, they just keep them on the shore for a while. I know at Ferry Point Restaurant, they had a dragon boat there for a while.
Right, the dragon boats, and all of these clubs have their own equipment, but when you're talking about rowing, whether it's 8, 4s, doubles, singles, you're talking about dragon boats, you're talking about Irish curraghs, they all need a permanent facility to store them. So they're not car tops. If you have a single, it's a car top, but you're not going to have your single on your car because it's like 35 feet, unless you're going to a regatta or you're moving it somewhere. So it's different from like a kayak where you could put it on the top of your car. At least I know you've been to the boathouse, so you've seen what it's like. You have racks and you store them. And all of these community boathouses that I've talked about do have racks and storage, but they don't, these areas are not just limited to kayaks or to canoes or to paddle boats. They have the facilities to store the
So
boats. So
you're
you're talking
looking- right.
3/4 or maybe 3/4 of an acre to have a place. In boathouses, usually the bottom floor is open. It's like an open garage, and you have racks inside which store the boats, and it can be up to seven racks high.
So what you're looking for is a building site. something.
Right, and it doesn't have to be like, we have Baltimore City, which is a permanent site, but then you have Anacostia, which is sort of a big white tent where they house the boats too, which is less expensive than building a boathouse. But like Baltimore City and other boathouses, the top floor is usually open, and many places rent it out. And so the county gets revenue from it, from the places where they're operating from, because it's a venue for people to come and have events, or weddings, or whatever they want to have. So St. John's is often rented out, as well as other places.
I was just gonna pass out a sample so you could see what a basic boathouse might look like. Because we're certainly not gonna get anything like the Naval Academy or. Yeah,
we're not the
so,
federal government.
he's gonna that's basic, it's a garage facility on the bottom, more or less. And then on
Yeah.
the top is offices, workout facilities, and things like that.
Right.
Hey, Bob, did you have a question?
Well, I just want to make sure that we brought up College Creek on the 7th.
Right.
Because that's the home of both the Naval Academy's Cadillac, or maybe Mercedes boathouse,
Right.
just finished construction a year or two ago. And St. John's has their facility there also.
Right.
And I didn't know if you had approached either of them, or both, I hope, to see if there's any opportunity for shared use.
We actually started with St. John's Boathouse, and their program got so big that they asked us to move 5 years ago. So the Masters Annapolis Rowing Club moved out of there 5 years ago because their program grew. So we also, the Annapolis Juniors and the Masters Club, hired Row America to do a feasibility study in Anne Arundel County about would this be a good county to host a rowing facility, and they were very positive, and I can share that feasibility study with you, because the results and their conclusions that they had were, yes, you know, economically we can do it in this county, yes, there is an interest in doing it, and there's a need from what they observed, so.
Rowing's a great sport. I did it with ARC back in the 90s, loved it. And
You
let's
should
say you were to get a facility. First of all, this thing that you talk about tent, they said 12 months, you have to store the boats year round, right?
Right, well, I can show you the
And then-
picture, and again, I apologize that this,
And then
It's not work,
I concur with you that if you had a facility in the county, that the demand would grow. High schools would add it, other organizations would want it. How do you decide who gets to keep their boat in the boathouse?
well,
I mean, you
most of
can't
these
have
clubs
unlimited.
have boathouses, singles, they're also outside racks, everybody does not have to
Yeah.
be inside a facility.
So you have some finite number of
Yes,
boat racks?
yes.
And how do you
And-
distribute
right.
them?
How do you distribute them?
You have some governing,
Generally, you would probably have your club boats that are housed inside, and your private boats would be out on a rack outside, but that's also something that can be discussed. The boats that are used the most would probably be inside a boathouse, and the boats that are used the least would be outside. And the way Anacostia does it is everybody gets so much rack space, and then you're outside after that, and then they have a governing board, and one representative from each of their 10 groups is on the governing
Yeah,
board,
yeah.
and they make those decisions. So it's from there. So it's not like, you know, you come here and you can't get a rack.
Is there special considerations that have to come into place for the body of water that would be ideally suitable for a boat
Yes,
facility?
yes.
What would be your
Thinking of that, listening to the presentation right here, Quiet Waters Park. The juniors are currently on South River, we're on South River. The place that they were just talking about at Quiet Waters has some protection because obviously when you're sitting in a rowing shell, you're about 3 or 4 inches above the water, so you're not gonna go out if it's really rough, unless you're the Irish Rowing Club and they love it really rough.
Well, but
they
you know,
don't cry,
even the
so.
Naval Academy, they generally row in the morning when there's hardly any waves.
Well, so do all rowing clubs.
Right.
I mean, by the time you're talking
So, but
8:30, most rowers are gone.
What I was more concerned about was the width or size, you know, because, you know, like even the Magathy, for instance, if you think of the Magathy, you have very narrow opening to the bay, and then Dobbins Island doesn't have a lot of little fingers.
Right.
And a lot of little fingers add up at 67-mile shoreline. But none of those fingers would make what I would consider an ideal, just listening to, because it's not very wide, a rowing facility. So that's why I'm thinking, you know, what is that? I mean, I know for a fact that where the Annapolis Naval Academy Boathouse is in St. John's, is that they row in the midsection of the river. So that's
Well,
what
they do
I
have
was
a
curious.
traffic pattern. It's up one side, down the other. They don't always go by it, but they do have a traffic
Well.
pattern. And we currently row on the South River now anyway, so
Mhm, mhm.
what you have is not gonna be novel for the masters or the
Well,
juniors
maybe we could just
because
look at
we
your
row them.
feasibility study
Mhm.
and make Paul happy.
Yeah. So there is plenty of
So,
room.
but you're really looking for a building. That's the deal.
No, we're looking for, and most of these clubs have floating docks, they have their equipment. They need a place to store the equipment, obviously inside. You have oars, you have ergs, which is winter training, especially for high school students, so that they can keep in shape, as well as masters.
Most
so you can
importantly, it
feed.
has to be attached to the open water, but it's still a building with parking.
Well, it has to be attached to a creek off the main body, because you want some calm water, because you have to launch these boats and get
Got it,
them out
got it,
there.
got it.
So you're not gonna launch out on the Chesapeake Bay unless it's a really calm day, so you need some place that's calmer.
What's a reasonable distance to have to walk the boat from the storage to, say, the water's edge?
What do we do now, like 150 feet? 150 feet,
200, I'd give you.
That's
200?
at Gingerville Cove, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I went down there and watched
Right.
you all launch that day, and I was
Right.
like, it's a precision maneuver. Those, the big 8-person shells, it's
Yeah,
impressive.
everybody pretty knows how to do it, and how to get off the dock fast, and how to get back on the dock, so, yeah.
So Chris, perhaps you could share a copy of the feasibility study.
Sure, I'd be
with us
happy
and
to.
let us,
I can
dig
send
in.
it to you.
But I think the timing here is interesting, because as we're looking at these locations that Bayland has analyzed, there may be some potential for joint use at one of these, or more than one of these, where a partnership could be structured. We're at very much the concept stage, but the timing is right. It wouldn't be a retrofit if this were to work out, so.
Right,
Thank you.
especially as you're talking about crab included as part of the subcommittee. I would say broaden the scope, so it's not just one
Right.
group, that it's a broader group
Right,
for
right.
everybody.
Yeah, well, the scholarships are very appealing to it. It seems to me that we're really missing the boat if there's. You can laugh louder.
Everybody needs to read 12 minutes of boat.
All right, I'm going to pass on any more comment on this.
Okay,
Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.